Tonight again I want to talk to you on consecrating the little things. That means, of course, consecrating the little things unto God, for God to use. Luke chapter 21. I'm reading there from verse 1. And he looked up and saw the rich men casting in their gifts into the treasury. And he saw also a certain poor widow casting in thither 2 mites. And he said, Of a truth, I say unto you, that this poor widow has cast in more than they all. For all these have of their abundance cast in unto the offerings of God, but she of her penury hath cast in all the living that she had. Consecrating the little things unto God. Many times we are eager to use great talents, contribute great things, that we forget that life is made up of little things. A little passing attitude of love, little word of kindness, a little deed that is done for just about 10 minutes or just about 1 hour, a little helping hand that is given many times will go a longer way than the big things that some people try to do. Now here it was offering to the Lord in the place of worship. And Jesus watched all the people as they were casting in their gifts. He watched the rich men as they were casting in much into the treasury. Then he observed the poor widow casting in only 2 mites. Alone, the 2 mites perhaps will do nothing. Perhaps that church could do without the 2 mites. You won't be able to buy too much of the 2 mites. If she didn't give it in, it will not affect the offering too much, at least in her mind. And the pastors and the preachers will not pester her life. If they knew that that is all that she needed, they might even excuse her. Do not worry yourself. But God takes notice of such little things. She cast in just the 2 mites, and Jesus called attention to her and said, Of a truth, I say unto you, this poor widow has cast in more. It meant more to God. It was great in the sight of God. Maybe she didn't think too much of what she cast in, but to Christ and to God and to the disciples, after Jesus had told them, it meant so much. She had been faithful. No doubt, the Holy Ghost had been speaking to her. You go forward and put in your bait as well. She could have resisted. She could have grumbled. She could have grudged God for not making her rich. She could have grudged God for taking away her husband. Or she could have said, there is no accommodation, there is no husband, and the 2 mites I have is useless to me and useless to God. She might not even have come to church at all. That's a possibility. So poor that she would have said, well, if God is not thinking about me and this is all I have, what am I going to do in the house of God? God doesn't need me anyhow. How do you feel? That here we are, now we have a large ministry. I'm sure you know that we have people who are graduates in our midst, and they can do a lot. They have much knowledge. All the knowledge you have can be written on a single sheet of paper, and it will not fill the whole paper. That's what I mean by 2 mites. I mean, all the wisdom you have. When we call people for counseling, you can teach all you have to a 5-year-old child, and your wisdom is exhausted. That's what we mean by the 2 mites. You don't have a house to give up for leading house fellowship. What you have will not even matter at all if you don't contribute it, if you don't give it in for the work. And therefore the temptation will be, why am I giving it to God? The graduates are there. The highly placed people are there. They can do it all. I mean, they have all the talents, all the money, all the things that are needed. They have it. So why do I bother myself? It will just be a ridicule. If all these people go forward now and they contribute all that they have, and I go in there and I drop 2 mites, I'll just be disturbing the people who really want to give. But you know, God isn't thinking like that. God is totally different. God actually appreciates that with your poverty, with your ignorance, with your lack of knowledge and lack of understanding, and you don't know too much, and you can't contribute too much, and yet you are bringing in the 2 mites. And Christ is paying attention to that. Now, in Ecclesiastes chapter 9, Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 13 to verse 16. This wisdom have I seen also under the sun, and it seemed great unto me. There was a little city, and few men within it. And there was a great king. There came a great king against it, and besieged it, and built great bulwarks against it. Now, there was found in it a poor wise man, and he, by his wisdom, delivered the city. Yet no man remembered that same poor man. You see that? I'm telling you that you can do something very great, but because you are a poor man, a poor woman, an ignorant man, a foolish woman, because you don't have a great name, a great personality, you can deliver, your little house fellowship, this little city, or this, or a small church, or your little zone from a great difficulty that a great king, the devil, has brought against that house fellowship, or that zone, or this church. And you, even though you are weak, you are poor, you are foolish, you are ignorant, yet, because it's not by power of an army, it's not by might of a multitude, but by the Spirit of God in that poor man or that poor woman, that wisdom is given to you, and you deliver that little house fellowship, or that little zone, or just a single family from the war that the great king, the devil, has brought against it. And do you know, according to that verse 15, yet no man remembered that same poor man. You may not be remembered. The house fellowship leader may not even write a report and say so and so did this. The zona leader may not recognize it. I mean, no man recognizing what that poor man, poor woman has done. But then it's written in the Bible, which means that God himself took note of it. And heaven has recorded it down. And in the great eternal day, when we stand before the judgment throne of God, that poor man, not recognized by people, will be wonderfully rewarded. Then said I, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. But consecrate it to God. Give it to God. Don't say, well, it doesn't matter. To God, it matters. Only 2 mites. God needs it. Just a little knowledge, God needs it.